Hello, good morning, and it's good to come your way once again. I'm Samuel Olutuase, and this morning we'll be dealing with the topic leadership, critical thinking, and innovation. As you look at this slide, you will notice some things going on there. You will discover that people are attracted to a bulb that is having light as against other ones that are not having light. And then probably they have some questions on their mind. And a reflection of that is the zoom of a man we have who is beginning to think of the whole scenario as a puzzle. Why is this having light? Why are others not having light? How do we get light into a bulb? And then he's trying to figure out what possible answers we could explore. If this guy comes up with credible answers, he will emerge as leaders or leader among others in terms of innovation. And that is what our world needs today. Our world needs people that can provide leadership in the area of innovation. Now, let's look at what leadership is. Now, the first thing I like you to note is that leadership is not a position. So you do not say, I'm just a student. Who am I? What do I have? I'm not the pastor in a church. I'm not the principal in a school. I am not the vice chancellor in a university. I am not the president in the country. I am not the community leader. So what can I do? Leadership is not about position. Leadership essentially is about action. So a leader basically envisions the future, and then with this vision in his mind, he is able to mobilize resources. So he knows what resources to mobilize. So he mobilizes resources in order to actualize this vision. And of course, in doing that, he also inspires others to actualize or to realize the vision. Now let's look at the case of Moses. We should be pretty familiar with the story of Moses. Moses was in the wilderness. Then God showed up one day and said, Moses, I want you to go to Egypt and lead my people to the promised land. And then God gave Moses the picture of the promised land. And then Moses went back to Egypt, and then he told the people, he attempted to paint the picture, the vision of the promised land in the mind of the people. And then the people said, okay, yeah, we accept your stories. And then eventually, after all of the drama in Egypt, they left Egypt and then they were on their way to promised land. But you will notice something about the children of Israel. They were always unstable. Whenever they were hungry, they would think of going back to Egypt, as if they were the only people hungry. Moses too was hungry, but Moses never thought of going back to Egypt because he had a vision, the vision of the promised land, which the children of Israel failed to keep in their mind, or which they failed to even have in the first place. So any little challenge, they are thirsty, they are thinking of going back to Egypt. They are hungry, they are thinking of going back to Egypt. Any little inconvenience. And in fact, when Moses was away for 40 days, they said, forget about that man, is dead. Let's make a calf that will lead us. Lead you where? They kept misbehaving in Egypt. They complain and criticize always and every time about everything because they had no vision. So God came to Moses and said, Moses, you know what? Even with all of the mess up and misbehavior, never mind. You will still lead the people to the land that I spoke to thee of. And that was what we read in Exodus chapter, we read in Exodus chapter 32 verse 34a. So Moses would never think of going back to Egypt, unlike the children of Israel, because he had a vision. The vision of the future, the vision of tomorrow, the vision of Canaan land. Unlike the children of Israel, they are always thinking of going back to their past instead of thinking of their future. Now I bring you another man, a global icon, the man that was reputed as one of the 500 most influential men in the world, Dr. William Kumuyi. Many years back, actually back in the days when he was an undergraduate student, he had the vision of speaking to the entire globe. He had the vision of communicating the gospel across the continents of the world. But if I had the opportunity to go close and say, excuse me, sir, that time you were having that vision, do you have the resources to actualize this? Maybe the man did not even have a bicycle. But he had a vision. And then he started mobilizing resources. He started with just 15 people. Today he has far gone beyond 150,000 people. We are talking about millions. And he's reaching out to the entire globe all at the same time. That's a leader. Now, what does it take you to be a leader? A good leader for that matter. I've said it. Number one is vision. You need vision. And number two, a leader inspires people. Now, when you have vision combined with inspiring people, you will set clear goals, able to encourage people, communicate clearly, garner support, build a team, and stimulate people to work. And then, of course, you don't forget to show good example and integrity. And in all of this, you recognize people as they contribute to actualization of the dream. So in summary, vision is critical to leadership, but vision cannot be birthed without critical thinking. So you've got to engage in critical thinking for you to be able to envision a desirable future. So that leads us to the second thing we'll be talking about, which is critical thinking. There are three things we'll be talking about here in terms of critical thinking. Number one is, what is critical thinking? What does it require to engage in productive critical thinking? And then number three, what does it generate when you engage in critical thinking? Simply put, as the name or as the word implies, critical thinking is a thought process. But it isn't a thought process that is erratic, haphazard, not steady. You think about A, you jump to B, you have not finished thinking about B, you're on Z. No, it doesn't make sense. So it must be a sustained process, a thought process that is sustained, thinking through to a logical conclusion. That is what critical thinking is. You are thinking about a problem, essentially. You are thinking about a matter, you are thinking about a subject, you are thinking about an idea, you are thinking about a subject matter of interest, of consequence, of impact to you, to your community, people around you. And then when you engage in critical thinking, you need to concentrate, and you must also have the ability to reflect, to turn over a matter again and again, over and over in your mind, until number three, now you're able to generate ideas. So it tells you you've got to maintain an active mind. So an active mind is full of ideas. A dormant mind, a passive mind, doesn't have any ideas. You ask them, there's a challenge here, what do we do? No idea. There's a problem here, what do we do? No idea. Passive mind, no idea. But active mind, full of ideas. And these ideas engenders creativity. So critical thinking is about solving problems, focusing on problems. So when there is problem around in a society or your community, people may criticize, people may complain, people may just be passive about it. But as a leader that you are, or that you should be, you will engage in critical thinking about this problem, and you never can tell, you will come up with ideas that will become the seed of creativity, solving the problem, creating solution to the problem that is on hand. So, what then do you need as skills for critical thinking? You should be able to collect data, facts, and evidence. You need that skill. Your ability to collect facts, to collect evidence. And in fact, I should tell you, you should also collect arguments. People are arguing and criticizing and talking about the problem, and then instead of you just people will just be criticizing instead, but you are listening to their argument. What is their argument all about? What are they saying? And as you are putting all of this together, you are analyzing, you are generating ideas, and then that becomes insight to solving the problem. Now, you have these critical skills, you will always come up with critical thinking skills, you will always come up with ideas. But the question is, when you have your ideas, what do you do with them? You know, ideas without action is all about active mind without action. And active mind without action, your ideas are dead with you, perish with you. So, when you put action to your ideas, they become innovation. They become the real solution we are looking for. That is the proof of your creativity and intelligence. That justifies and gives value to your ideas. That makes you a man of vision. So, it is not just having an active mind. Active mind, remember, is full of ideas. Dormant, passive mind, no ideas. But it is not just to have an active mind, but active life. So when you add action to your ideas, you become an active man, a man of innovation. So, put together, what are we talking about here? Leadership thrives on innovation, on vision. And this vision is brought about through critical thinking. And when action is added to the product of your critical thinking, which is ideas, you lead in innovation. So leadership, critical thinking, innovation, they are all connected in a circle. Now let me give you a practical example as we close this session. I'm talking about one man, Joseph. Joseph was a man, a very young man. Joseph could say, I'm just but a young man. I'm not a pharaoh. What can I do? I'm just the least among my brethren. I'm a young man. What can I do? He was a slave. You may be thinking, I don't have resources. I'm from a poor background. What can I do? That's not Joseph. You may say, oh, I landed in a trouble. How do I defend myself? What can I do? Let me just relax to this. I just join them since I cannot beat them. That's not Joseph. Joseph was a real leader. Even though he was young, he had his own challenges, but he was a man of vision. He had his dreams, and that was all he needed to keep going in life. And he reached the top. And then you could tell this about Joseph. He was a man of critical thinking. He thought through, and he was also a man of innovation. Look at all the great things he did in Egypt. If you think of Joseph as an administrator, you'll be correct. Think about him as an economist, you'll be correct. Think about him as a town planner, that's all correct. You want to think about him as an architect, as an engineer, as a designer, all good. As an expert in agriculture, in water resources, that was Joseph for you. And you know what? Joseph had an idea, and he sold his idea to Joseph, to Pharaoh. Pharaoh, you know what? I've got an idea. We have a lot of surplus, and we're going to be having surplus for the next 7 years. You know what? Let's store up the goods, the excess food against the 7 years of famine. And then they say, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. And then the Pharaoh said, I appoint you. If it were some of us in these days, what are we going to do? The next thing is we'll go and roll out Thanksgiving drum. I'm now Prime Minister. You go and buy the latest Jeep and or whatever it is. No, that's not what Joseph did. The Bible says Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through the land of Egypt. What was he doing? Sightseeing? Nah. Joseph simply was doing feasibility study. He was inspecting the land. That is putting action to ideas. And no wonder he achieved quite a lot in his lifetime. There's a lot we can achieve in this lifetime as young people. We can provide the leadership that is needed in our community, in our families, in our churches, in our schools. Yes, you may have the appointed leader there. No problem. You're not going to usurp them. You're not going to displace them. Pharaoh still remained on the throne. Potiphar still remained as a leader in the house. But Joseph provided the leadership everywhere he found himself. Why? As a young man, he had the skills for leadership. He had the skills for critical thinking. And he was always putting action to his ideas. And that naturally gave him the leadership responsibility. So, as we close this session, there is something for you to do. Go back to your environment. Go back to your community. Go back to your school. Go back to your families. Be aware of your environment. You will discover a problem. And don't say, it is their problem, it's not my problem. Don't behave like others who will only criticize and murmur and complain. No. Be absorbed in the problem. Be analytical about it. That is critical thinking. You will come up with ideas. But do not leave your ideas alone. Put action to your ideas. That's innovation. And then keep thinking, keep engaging with your environment, because things are changing. So as you assess and reassess your environment, you will come up with new ideas that will help you to always improve. And then you are going to be the solution leader that this world is looking for. So we are going to end with this quotation. If I can, then I will. And if I say I will, then I must. And today is the day to start. I pray God will help us in Jesus' name. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best as you climb up the ladder to leadership. God bless you.